I'm so happy to introduce Bob and Carol Bridgestock to you, and they're going to tell us a little bit about themselves and their books before we get going.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Do you want to do it?
No, you go first.
Okay. We're Bob and Carol Bridgestock. We're husband and wife. We write as R C Bridgestock. Between us, we've 47 years experience with the police. I spent 30 years as a career detective, retiring after the 30 years. In my last 3 years alone, I took charge of 26 murders, 50 suspicious deaths, 24 major incidents, numerous sexual assaults, and I was an hostage negotiator for kidnap, extortion and suicide intervention. And I've got a red face because I've been out in the cold snow.
We just moved house yesterday.
with the dog. And Carol was a support worker in various roles. And we decided after we'd left the police, what should we do?
Yeah, and we actually worked in what you know as Happy Valley, the station where Happy Valley was filmed. I worked there for 17 years, so I've run up them steps quite a number of times. and
I've walked it, but you get there just as quick.
And the office with the round window in Happy Valley, that was Bob's old office as a detective chief inspector. You were there, wasn't you?
Back then, yeah.
And where Sarah sits upstairs in the desk with a lot of people, the bigger desk, literally I sat there. Yeah, it's surreal that we actually got a chance to work on the programme.
And we based it on it because after being in the police for 30 years, what do you do? A lot of police officers stay, do other jobs, and try to stay on, but it's a 30-year career and you've got to go. So what do you do? And we headed south, and we lived on the Isle of Wight for 16, 17 years. Totally cut the cord with the police and sort of started knocking walls down, doing all the things we'd never done before. And
time to do.
And then somebody said, please come and do a talk to the local hospice. I says, no, I can't. They don't want to hear it. I'm going to talk about death and murder and dead bodies and things like this.
And they said, it's fine. Just come and do a talk to us. So we went to do one, and Bob, as you probably can hear, we talk for England, and we started talking, and it was only like 40 minutes. And
she kept interrupting me.
And basically, it was like 4.5 hours later, and they didn't even have the tea and coffee. And Karen was like, "I can't believe it! Can't have the tea and coffee and the biscuits." And people were just like, "You should write a book. You should write a book." And that's when it all started, really. But I'd always wanted Bob to write his career because he started off as a butcher, and I honestly think that prepared him for what he was about to see. And a lot of people, I mean, what are you going to see in the police? Your postmortems and things like that. I honestly think it prepared him, because if one of the children fell or they cut the knee or he cuts himself, it's like the biggest trauma than casualty. So it is. So I do think it prepared him. And when we did leave the police, it was like Bob said, what do you do?
It's fate. Fate plays a part in everybody's life. Some people call it luck, some people call it fate. I'm a great believer. I'm one of these people that say if your number's on it, your number's on it, and there's not a lot we can do about that. We just hope we don't have a number that's pulled out of the bag. But like Carl says, what do you do? And
you've been dragged on, on cars.
I've been hospitalised in 30 years. I've had stitches in my face. I've been kicked, punched in it, with all sorts of things. But that's part of the job. You accept that that's it, but you really see a different side to people. And I think you see it in riots of how aggressive people are towards police officers, whether that's in plainclothes or uniform. And even if you're there to help them sometimes, they really are aggressive. If you're dealing with a murder, some people are really aggressive towards you for no other reason than just your police. So it was a case of Karen, the lovely lady on the Isle of Wight who run the hospice, said, you should write a book. And I said, well, have a word with my English teacher. I left school at 15. I think she'll probably tell you that that's not going to happen. And in actual fact, in the following week in the local paper, which comes out once a week, was an advert, write your first novel. 2 hours on a Monday night for 6 weeks. And
I couldn't believe it when Bob actually signed us both up. So,
well, she complains because I spent that many hours. The days were like 18-hour days. So that's what we agreed is that, right, when I retire, we retire together. We spend as much time and catch up, for the time we've been apart. Because I used to ring her from the mortuary. I'm at mortuary. I'm going to be here for another 4 hours. And Carol would say, "Have you eaten?"
I'm cooking liver and onions.
What do you fancy? And I said, "Yeah, fortunately, I'm one of these people that never lost their appetite. A lot of people did. I know a lot of people and work with a lot of people that did. Fortunately, I didn't. But I got to saturation point, and that, at the end of 30 years, I've really had enough.
One day Bob actually rang me, and he was at King Cross. You'll know King Cross, coming from Leeds, and it is actually where the stop is on Happy Valley.
Tony, Samantha, Marion, and everybody else.
Yeah, cheers.
It's water for the red face.
It's not water.
And he'd actually thought that you were having a stroke, didn't you? He couldn't move his legs, and he couldn't, he literally stopped the car to go across the road to get some money out of the ATM, and he couldn't move. And he rung me, and you were really panicky, wasn't you? And I said, "Go, just sit in the car, get to the car, sit down and have a drink of water." And we went straight to the hospital, and he said, "We need to do some tests straight away." They did the test, didn't they? And they said, "There's nothing wrong. What did you do in the last week?"
They did a brain scan and
found, and found a brain.
No, they did. I'm going to say they did a brain scan and found nothing, which was fortunate. But what they did say is, "Look, are you nearing retirement? Tell me what you did in the last 7 days." I got to day 2. And he just shook his head and said,
"Whoa,
stop. What you've done in 2 days is probably what a lot of people will not deal with or see in a lifetime. If you can retire, you need to go. Your body's telling you it's time to go."
I think that's probably why the police do 30 years, to be honest.
And I think linking that to the writing, Carol will tell you that when I first started writing, everything was police. I mean, we write police procedure, but everything was like a court file. Everything was like, this is what happened, this is what we do, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to get there. And and I'm not being clever here, but because I think it's terrible that in the last week of my working week with the police, I give evidence in 3 murder cases on the same day at Leeds Crown Court. That's just how stupid it got.
And one of them was an 8-hander, wasn't it?
And one of it was 8 defendants. And I mean, really all high-profile cases. And, the stress level there is to get something wrong or, trying to concentrate on one rather than the next one that's coming up. The judge in the afternoon said to me, "You're having a busy day, Mr. Bridgestock, aren't you?" I thought, that's an understatement. But it just got to that stage where you had to go. But when it came to the writing, Carol will tell you that I wore the mask of what she calls the mask of a detective. She'd say to me, "Okay, as a police officer,
and how you feel, you
say you're going to a mortuary. I've never been to a mortuary. I don't want to go." And I would say it's part of the job. I'm one of the lucky ones that I walk out of the mortuary. And Carol would say, "Right, okay, forget all the police bit, forget the bravado. You're a husband, you're a father. How do you really feel?" Right? That's what I want to know, and that's what the readers want to know. How do you really feel?
And that's what we did with. So when I started, what I do, Bob actually writes the bones of the story, if you like. So when he gives me what we call the second draft, I get the fun part really, because I get rid of the things that I don't like and I add to it. And what I started doing was
and she changes people's names, so I don't know who she's talking about when she starts with the characters.
Yeah, but some of your names enough. Anyway, so what I do is I actually write the story then. So I build the characters. So the characters don't mean anything to Bob, because if they did in real life, he could never do his job. So but they mean something to me because I'm a reader and Bob isn't. So basically what I do is I build on them characters and I make them become real. So Dylan was very easy for me because I live with him. So Dylan was based on Bob. So I think you probably will feel more in depth. You'll feel more passion. You'll feel more nearer him because I know him so well, and you get all the feelings and the thoughts, and as a wife. So Jen running alongside him, and the second story, the storyline running with Jen and the family, is a storyline that I put alongside of it because Dylan isn't a drinker, he isn't a womanizer, I hope. He isn't a smoker. He's just a normal
He's not a drinker.
family man. He is now.
It's water. We moved house 24 hours ago. We don't show you out there. It's full of boxes to the ceiling.
I did this specially. Special for you. I don't show you the rest.
But somebody said, have you ever thought of writing solo? We do write solo in some respects because I'm usually one book ahead of Carol. And that's to keep me writing. And I might write anywhere between 60,000 words, 70,000 words. Give it to Carol. And then she pulls it apart, like she says. But somebody's asked on the line here who does the edits. Well, the publisher does the edits. We do our own edits, and we once we've both done our part, we sit together and we go through it again. Then, to make sure it works for both of us, and that we're.
I mean, the next time you see it, though, to be fair, the next time you see it is when I've done like the second draft. And then Bob starts reading it again. And then we start trying to tunnel into just, sort of both agreeing on anything. I mean, we never argue because we both do this different jobs. But the total, I mean, obviously.
We sit separately. We sit separately in different rooms. So otherwise,
And you're on with another book, aren't you?
Yeah, so. And otherwise I get nothing done because she chats away like this. But somebody just said, how was it working on Happy Valley? Do you know what?
Samantha.
Yeah, Samantha. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we lost his earplugs. I pulled the earplug out.
Carol does that if she doesn't. Happy Valley came about. We'd just been interviewed up in Yorkshire, and we're still on the Isle of Wight. And
Virginia Mason from the Halifax Courier, for anybody who reads the Halifax Courier.
Just interviewed us about us writing and said, do you know you two should meet up with Sally Wainwright? She's got to do a new police programme. And we said, right, yeah, that would be good. Number one, we don't know her. Number two, we've never been a consultant. I actually went to school with Sally because she was 2 years younger than me. But she did go to the same school as I did. We had the same English teacher. I didn't. But we got a call then. You know how you get calls, and somebody says, "Oh, this is Sally Wainwright. Would you like to come up to Manchester and talk to me?" So Carol and I and Sally sat down, and she says, "Look, I've got to write a story. I've been commissioned to write a story. Juliet Bravo." For those modern people, but modern day. So anybody that's as old as me will remember Juliet Bravo.
Do you remember Juliet Bravo?
Yeah, Jess.
And from that point of view, you've just thrown me now. But I mean, and then we came up to Manchester and we said, right, okay, let's base it on. We came up with the name Happy Valley. Let's base it on things that I've dealt with. So at the very beginning of the first series, you will see the person on the swing and the negotiator, and it's going to set fire to him. The ice cream van later. The kidnap was all based on what I'd dealt with and things. The extortion was, and we really enjoyed it. We only went on set once. Gosh. I mean, we went to the read-throughs, met all the actors, and we were like sat there going, oh, that's so-and-so. Or nudging each other, saying,
"What do they call him? What do they call
him?
I can't remember the name."
I mean,
because you remember the characters, don't you? You don't remember you don't remember the real names.
Characters are everything. Story's good, and characters are everything. But we enjoyed it tremendously.
But James Norton came up to you, didn't he, afterwards?
Yeah, James Norton came up afterwards and said, "Look, how should I play? How should I play him?" And so we had a chat, and I said, "Look, he's one of these people that." Everybody looking at you will think you're an everyday normal person, but when you actually flip, you're going to be really violent. You're going to be aggressive and really violent, and nothing will stop you. And when we first met him, he had dreadlocks, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had dreadlocks.
We were totally shocked then when we saw him.
Yeah.
You know, at the
But,
when we were filming.
So that's how it all started. We had a meeting with Sally because we were still on the Isle of Wight. We introduced Lisa
Farron.
Farron.
She was Sykes when we knew her, wasn't she?
Yeah, Lisa, who was up here to be on set as a police advisor who worked with Sally and that, just, on set. We went on set once, and 3 hours later, they'd take 28. We said, oh, gosh.
We were actually at Sorby Bridge train station, for anybody that knows, Sorby Bridge, and they'd actually got this really expensive car, and they were going round and round and round to get the right shots, and it ran out of petrol because it was so expensive and it went through so much petrol.
What did tell you about it?
It was just, and then
she wrapped in water bottles.
Sarah had, it was absolutely freezing.
She had water bottles, about 4 coats on, and then take 27 makeup artist out, quick makeup, coats off, do the shot. Right,
straight back on again.
We couldn't live with it. We think we'll do that again. I think Marion said there is anything other than crime novels that with you inside drives you mad. Well, TV drives us mad when procedure-wise we've got to be right, and the reason we've got to be right is because police officers, some of our we just lost you.
Where are you now? Sorry, I lost you.
Police officers that follow us watch to try pick me up or find a mistake, and I think sometimes that's the only reason they read it. So we've got to be right. So the things that, and the reason, we got into it was we've watched things and you see the procedure and it's wrong.
Do you know what?
And we get lots of messages.
Do you know what? Did you say that was Marion? Do you know what, Marion? Bob used to drive me mad because he'll read a book or he'd watch the telly and he'd go like, that wouldn't happen. Well, that wouldn't happen. Da, da. And it'd just drive me mad. And I got to the stage where I'm like, well, do it yourself then.
But I mean, I suppose it's
like anybody though. If it was a teacher,
profession,
you would.
It's whatever profession you're in, and if you're a doctor or a nurse and you see this procedure and you think that is so bad, why aren't they just taking time to speak to somebody? So that's why we get into it, and we've just recently just done one with a writer from Leeds called Gabby Chiap, and Gabby's a lovely lady who wrote Light Rise from Candlefire.
She did
Candle Rise.
She did
More
Vera.
Water, I think it is.
She did Vera. She did
Casualty.
Shetland.
Casualty.
She's done Casualty. She's done the latest Miss Behaviour, the film.
But
She
very
did
experienced.
The Finest, the film The Finest.
And we don't go looking for them. Fortunately, they contact us and we speak to them. They say, "Would you like to be involved in this?" And we say, "Right, what are you doing?" And we say, "Yeah, actually, it's fun." And I think we try to find things that are different because we worked at Happy Valley 1. We did the storyline for Happy Valley 2 to start with, and then it changed. Sally got involved with somebody else to do it, and we just said, "Okay, right, we'll step aside because
the police procedure
is totally wrong." And what we agreed from the very word go was, it has to be right, and that's what you wanted, that's what we wanted, and it was quite horrific, but we told it as it was. So yes, there's going to be a 3. Somebody asked, I forget who it was. Was it Samantha?
We don't know.
Well, Sally keeps saying there's going to be a 3. We're not involved in that. We've moved on, but yeah, we involve ourselves in television, writing, charity work, and all sorts of things, don't we? We're just so busy. And then I'll shut up.
Before we went live, Marion Todd, who is, I don't know if you've read her crime books because she's a fellow Canelo author, she referred to you as crime writing royalty.
Oh, bless her. Oh, thank you so much, Marion. We, like I say, our sort of idea was just to tell it as it is. We don't try to do anything apart from how it is in real life. And if you read the Dylan series and you follow the home life, you can see what, you know, problems that the families have. You know, I can't imagine, you know, Marion, at this time, if Bob had to go out and the riots and, you know, the fires, and what we're hearing from the police is how so many of the young officers are just throwing the towel in because it's just too dangerous for them.
I don't have the temperament, although I was a negotiator and talked to a lot of people down from motorway bridges and bridges in Halifax, and stop people stabbing themselves or cutting somebody. Nowadays, I don't think I'd have the patience with some of the people I come across. Them. The violence that is shown, not just to police officers, police horses, dogs, and it's just a case of, you know, you police, you're the establishment, so we can deal with it. I'm sorry, when I worked, and I worked from 74 to 2004, we had a little bit more control, and we squash things in the nip it in the bud, as it were. But back then you had community police officers and everybody knew who everybody was. Mm-hmm. So very quickly. And I think it's just a sign of the times that, you know, society's got more violent and there just isn't sufficient police officers. I've got to say hi to David and Lisa, and well done with your writing as well, you David. Yes, I've got some very happy memories, mate.
Hi David, hi Lisa.
Anna put a really
what embarrass you and sharing it.
Where's Anna put a really nice comment onto Carol. Anna's a massive fan. She tweeted a 5-star review of Uber on Twitter.
She did. She's lovely.
Let's see what she said. Carol, at least you could put in writing some of the frustration of Bob being away so much because of his job.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa and David will also tell you, you know, when you both, in some ways it's really good because you're both working together, you understand it, you understand the pressures that they're under, and you try and help. Whereas, you know, if the other half isn't in the job, it must be very hard to understand the police family, if you like, you know, because it is a very tight unit. It has to be, because, you know, and one of the things, like in Consequences, I think you've just read it, haven't you? And you've seen the guy gone bad, if you like. Well, to say that he was, you haven't read Poetic Justice yet, but he was basically Dylan's best mate. He was his sidekick. He was, you know, everything to him. And when he started going down the wrong road, you know, you've got to think that, you know, Dylan actually relied on him to cover his back. And yet to hear that he's got that side of him that isn't, you know, he didn't know, if you like, and could go bad, that would destroy an officer, you know, to think his partner had gone to the other side. So, yeah, sorry.
And I think the other thing is when a murder breaks, it's, you know, you used to get the call at home and say, I used to laugh because it used to ring you in the middle of the night and say, sorry to disturb you, boss, we've got a body. I'll ring you back when you're awake.
Yeah, always.
And I always used to say, who do you think answered the phone?
Yeah.
You know, why have you hung up? You know, give you 10 minutes. But we used to have this thing, and Carol used to say it's like throwing a switch. I'd get up, coffee, definitely coffee, need the caffeine. Carol will get the suit, the shirt, and like David and Lisa will tell you, when a job breaks, you run with it. And I would be loaned to another family for however long it takes. You know, we devised a plan for our 2 girls that who saw us on the news and never said, you know, I was off before they got up for school. By the time I got home, they were well fast asleep. And we devised a plan that, look, if I do a press conference, you will see on the news, I'll just straighten the knot on my tie. And that's saying, hi, girls, love you. Dad's okay. I'll catch up with you soon. And you don't catch up until you've actually caught the person. But what the public can...
But they really got upset, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
You know, when they saw... Because you can't hide it from them. You know, people will say, well, stop them from watching the news or hide the newspapers. But it's reality. And, you know...
They see it. I mean,
they see it.
You know, we don't give them...
Can I just say, when you were saying about loaning yourself to the family, I've just been actually putting away some things today. And I found the slippers When Bob dealt with a really horrific job, it was Have a Go Hero, and it
Kevin
was
Jackson.
Kevin Jackson, and it was a guy that had actually, the parents had left the 4x4 outside, hadn't they? They'd gone on holiday because they thought it'd be safer with them. And
the alarm on the car goes.
Julie was in bed.
He chases 3 lads down the street and never returns. And basically,
she had a
baby,
and she had a little boy as well, didn't
they all
she?
3 set about him. He ends up with a fatal injury with a screwdriver to his temple and ends up on a life support machine, which they turn off at the 31st of December. But Julie, I mean, I held her hand in the press conference, and I always smile because I've met her since, 10 years later, and it's like seeing one of the family after lockdown. It's that kind of hug and cuddle.
She came to our first book signing, didn't she?
Because I said to her, I passed her an hanky in the press conference, and I whispered to her when all the cameras are there and all the media, and I just whispered to her and said, "Don't worry about the bogies." And I apologise to people for saying that, and she said afterwards, she said, "Do you know what? That you just sounded like Kevin. That's just what
you just saved me." She said,
I was just about to pass out till you said that. And she says, "I can never thank you enough." But at the end of it,
I was going to say, we've got slippers.
At the end of it,
she bought him some slippers.
She came to the incident room. She wanted to meet all the team because, as a senior investigating officer, you're only as good as your team. And you might be the face, you might be the voice, but you're only as good as your team. And David will tell you this, and Alicia, you're only as good as the team. But she came in and she wanted to meet all the team, and she did so. And she brought a pair of slippers, apart from a card saying thank you, and just said thank you to the team. And she brought me a pair of slippers, and I thought, what's with the slippers? She says, the first time you came to my house in December, there was snow on the ground. And she said, we just had a new carpet. And I'm saying to all of you, can you just take your shoes off, please, before you come into the house? She says, my husband's on a life support machine and I'm telling you to take your shoes off. She says, it was just sheer madness. She says, but I think in your kit, you should always have a pair of slippers. So she says, I just thought it was something I'd do. But a really sad case. And they're all sad cases and you get drawn into them. But every police officer looks for justice and they go the extra mile wherever they can within the boundaries of the law to bring to justice somebody that's devastated a family. And there's no winners in a murder. And I think Anna's asked, how many Charlie Mann do we plan to write? Well, that depends on the publisher. We've got 3. The third one will be going in later this month.
Yeah, I've got a deadline. So next week
so don't take into account moving out.
Next week it has to be in. So it's going to be called Persecution. This is a first, so you're hearing it first. It's called Persecution is the third Charlie Mann. And yeah, that's got to be in. So we're only contracted to 3. And we want to bring Dylan back. We want to bring
Dylan back.
We want to do
Jack's back, as they say. Back. And we want to do that. And the reason why we moved to start a new series was, one, because our initial publisher that we got let us down, and we parted company, and he let us down because we went in the days when Waterstones did book signings or you went to literary festivals, we went there, spoke to him, the week before, 2 days before, the day before, saying, right, we're on. We've done a lot of media publicity.
Bearing in mind,
and there was no books.
Bearing in mind, we were doing like crime dinners, we were doing afternoon teas, we were doing, and he didn't get the books to us.
And there were no books. And then at the last week, we sent the books back because there was too many mistakes in them and spelling mistakes that people, we picked up on. And he said, well, they've been printed. And we said, I don't care if they've been printed. We regard our readership as friends and followers. I would not give this to them, not with my name on it. So we parted company.
And then we got David, didn't we?
And we got an agent who's David Edley from Goldsborough Brooks in London. And he took us on and published some books. But because of COVID and the financial aspect, he had to shut down the publishing side of it. But we're now a company called Canelo. And hopefully that's going to be good for us. But the thing about it is our initial publisher wouldn't release the last 2 books back to us in the Dylan series. So it's still got This year we get back, the last two
Is
is
it
When
June?
the Killer Strikes.
We
get back in
when
June
the
this
killer
year.
starts.
And when
the killing,
no, When the Killer Strikes.
Is the
When
last
the
one.
Killing Starts is
Yeah.
sorry. When the Killing Starts is the 7th, and number 8
We get back next year.
we get back next year. So, but he claws that, and he won't release it unless we give him £40,000. And we decided we wouldn't do that because number one, we thought it was just ridiculous thing to do. So what we couldn't do is continue with we could continue with the Dylan series, but it wouldn't assist us. So what we're going to do, or hopefully going to do, is hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be very close to getting the full series back. Well, we've got most of it back now, but all of it back. And hopefully Anna and Jack will be back. It's time he came back. He's been at training school for the last 3 years. Let me tell you.
He comes into Condemned. He comes into. I think she mentions him in Condemned. Yes, she does.
I started writing it. So
and then in Persecution, he actually works with Charlie on one of her jobs. So as a negotiator.
Anna's the opposite to me. She says she connects more to the independent Charlie than to Family Man Jack.
Ah, do you, Anna? Right.
And
really interesting.
Anna said
this morning reading this.
Yeah.
I did actually read it from cover to cover today.
Gosh.
And I'm slightly leaning towards liking Jack
Dylan.
more.
I'm going to say, and you're still awake. You've read that today, and you're still awake.
Yeah, still awake. Read all of it today.
I think one of the things with the female protagonist as well. Yeah, with the female protagonist, it was a very big thing at one time that we had this with Sally when they were doing Happy Valley, because Dylan actually got to the table. There was DCI Banks. We had it optioned for TV by a company called Gate Films.
And Claire Lewis was one of the producers, and the other producer
was Mervyn Watson.
Mervyn Watson.
Watson was
a retired ITV
consultant. And they optioned it to go to TV, and it got right to the table, and it was between DCI Banks and ours. And because he'd had a season out, they went for him again.
Yeah.
So we missed out that time.
Otherwise, it would have gone straight onto TV.
Yeah.
And that had been good. But it's a bit like the Grand National, you win some, you lose some. And if we're lucky, somebody might make it up.
Always write both series and publish 2 books a year.
Yeah, it's hard to publish 2 books a year, to get 2 books and live a normal life and deal with grandchildren and move out and things like that. If somebody sets you the task saying, right, we want to publish 2 books a year, it's really difficult. I mean, when we started, we were doing, in the Dylan series, we were doing 2 books a year, back to back. No problem, but
we were living on the Isle of Wight. We didn't have any grandchildren.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad were in good health. We lost my dad last year, and my mum's still with us, and
she lives with us. She lives with us as well.
So I mean, we're just not as free as we were.
We'd love to.
I mean,
it isn't as though we haven't got stories to tell.
No.
It's just a case of having the ability to do it. People say, well, just talking to your recorder or talk to the thing and let it type it for you. It's not that simple, but, and again, it's publishers that drive, but we like working to deadlines because it makes you do it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Is there any more questions there? I'm
not.
Marion said Canelo are fab.
Yeah, Marion said Canelo are fab. She's got all of her books out with Canelo.
Oh, are they, Marion? Fab.
Yeah, we've got quite a few other Canelo authors in the group.
Yeah.
Anna says she's reading Reprobates at the moment and she'll finish tomorrow.
Oh.
Let me tell you something about Reprobates. Well, it's not just Reprobates, but it is based on real life. The characters exist, and a lot of the characters in all the Dylan books are based on real life, but obviously we we swap them about, twist them about, so
I
we
think
don't upset anybody along the way.
I think it's more like the thoughts and the feelings, and you know, I mean, you can only kill somebody so many times, really, can't you? But at the end of the day,
Well, I don't know, you know.
But at the end of the day, I think it's you know, when you think of a police officer working on a job and his family, you know, things will affect you differently if things are going on in your own life.
I think we started this, and like I said earlier about Carol talking about get rid of the mask of the police officer, get rid of the mask of the
I think it's about
how do you feel as a person?
What book would you
and
say?
It was all about your senses. What are you smelling? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How are you feeling? It's all about what you touch. You know, how do you feel about this when you go into a... How do you feel when a body suddenly sits up? You know, you've been in a crime scene for 20 minutes and the body that it certainly dead suddenly sits up, and nurses will tell you this is quite common, and it's because it's wind in the body, trapped wind, and it's air that's releasing. And how do you really feel? And it's all about that. And when we started the journey, what we said is we want people to feel, and I don't know if, well, we do know quite a lot of people do, but what we like to do is let people feel as though they're there with us, that they sat, we always said it, you know, sat on the shoulder is Jack Dillon, and Jack Dillon is the reader. And when he goes home to see Carol, it depends if she's Jen, but they're loosely based on ourselves, you know. And somebody says, why did you do that? And we said, well, somebody once told us, write about what you know. And then somebody asks us, where do you come up with the name Jack Dillon? And I says, well, we mentioned fate, about how things happen. Two friends of ours had babies, and they said, we call him one Jack, and the other couple said, well, we're calling ours Dylan.
And that's how it happened.
And we said, right, we just got a name for our detective. We'll put it, you know, Jack Dillon. So it's that kind of interaction, if you like, and just putting it in. And if it sounds right and if it works, then it's great. But we just like to take people on a journey, and we just hope people enjoy it, you know. And I think we're trying amongst it sounds awful, but educate a little bit of what you can do and what you can't do. And that's the procedural side of it, you know. And going back to Happy Valley, the week before, they changed a lot of names, like, you know, the helicopter used to be X-Ray 99. You know, the National Crime Agency suddenly came into being, you know, and so everything changed. So we were able, you know, by keeping our finger on the pulse, as it were, to change these things.
Yeah, because what you don't realise is there's so long between you starting a TV series and it actually going on television as well. So things can change just overnight, as we found out. And so much changed just before Happy Valley went out, didn't it? It was incredible.
We've just done, I think I mentioned earlier, The Beast Must Die, which we've just done with Gabby Chiap. And we suggested to Gabby, we said, do you know what? I love the story. Do you know I should film this? Isle of Wight. And we've moved back to Yorkshire now, and we said this is meant for the Isle of Wight.
Has anybody watched? Has anybody read The Beast Must Die? Has anybody on that's read The Beast Must Die? It's a Daniel Day-Lewis.
It'll catch up, I'm sure. Like
yeah, well, it's a brilliant book. It starts sort of the first words are, "I'm going to kill a man. I just don't know what it is." And that's how the book starts. And
they
that's
keep releasing little bits of it, you know, Cush Jumbo and
Billy Howie. Billy Howie's in it, and Jared Harris is in it.
You know, from and it's great. The cast is good.
A lot of people from Isle of Wight are in it.
The story is good. We've seen snippets. We haven't seen it all yet. And I think it's going to romp away. I think it'll be another...
It's on BritBox and it starts in May.
And people, you know, you can get BritBox for 7 days for free. So when it's on, don't pay the fee, you can watch it. But yeah, I think, you know, she's going to get some award for this, because I think, you know, they've done it really well. It's a well-written story. And from our point of view, it's great that, because we did a recce down there on Isle of Wight for them, and filmed some places. And again, like Happy Valley, the police station at Soberby Bridge was empty because it was a police building that was being sold, and we said, look, just
So
use
to
it.
Sally, why not?
And then on the Isle of Wight, there was a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, the police station closed down because a lot of police stations closing down. So Ventnor on the Isle of Wight, if anybody's been to the Isle of Wight, Ventnor police station, they use that in The Beast Must Die.
Yeah. And Samantha, do we discuss things? Usually we when we're walking the dogs, we have this healthy discussion, shall I say. You can pick that up, Carol. No, but it's a case of we have this discussion about where we're at, or we'll say, does this work? Or Carol will say, I don't like why have you done that? I didn't like it. I said, I've done that because it's and it needs to be in. You know, and we'll spend all the time throwing that about till we come back, and then we sit separate. Even the dogs, one dog sits with one of us and the other sits with the other. I think they pass messages between themselves saying, you're sitting there today.
But like we say, Bob's one book ahead of me, Samantha. So when I'm writing my second draft, then Bob's already on the next book that he's writing. So especially at the moment, because you're writing the Jack's Back, and I'm actually still on Persecution, and he'll go like, who are you talking about? And it's because obviously there's different characters in them.
And I must admit, I'm enjoying writing back with Dylan. You know, it's like we're back, you know, and
I think quite a lot of people actually describe it as picking up another book, like picking an old friend up. You know, like, because you know Dylan so well, you're obviously at home with him, you're at work with him, and it's like picking an old friend up when you pick the next book up. And that's quite nice, you know. And I think we feel like that. We're watching a series as well, don't we? When we're watching any television, it's like, oh, you can relax because you're picking up another, you know, the same character.
We're pulling it to bits.
Oh, we're pulling it to bits.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't. It's like a lot of things. If you're watching, you know, was it Downton that when the bottle of water was left on the mantelpiece and things like this, or when there's a dead body and suddenly the eyes start flickering or the eyes open for a moment and they haven't edited it. It's that kind of thing. You think, why haven't somebody just checked?
I'll tell you one thing that happens when they're on set. Like they buy, I don't know if anybody knows this, but they buy like packs of things to use for police props.
Police props,
yeah. And what they do is like they want to use them, obviously. So they'll put things in, but these props that they buy are often just like American. So you've lost your prop piece. They're American, so you get all the things in that are American, and we're like, no, you can't use that. You know, like the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they don't.
Which is quite fun.
They don't draw around the body, and you know,
don't you?
And you've got no. Well, if you did, you wouldn't be. Banksy could if you want. But I mean, the thing about it is that some of the things you see are like, I mean, gosh, it's like DCI Banks. You know, you'll see him when there's armed officers and an armed man, and he's walking towards him, and you know, trying to calm it down. It just wouldn't happen. You know, you don't put anybody at risk. You know, as a negotiator.
Tell him about you as a negotiator. He had this coat that they gave him. I mean, everything's changed now, but he had this coat that they gave him, and I couldn't lift it up. It had chainmail inside it.
It was like a beige anorak, but it was armour. You know, it stood up on its own. Yeah, and when you lifted it, put it on, you couldn't wear it for a long time because it just suddenly sank. You know, I mean, it really
So Bob thought that he was like invincible with this on, that nobody could actually, you know, knives, gun, nothing could hurt him on his body because, you know, it just, it was just impregnable. So it's just, you know, anyway, then when you'd actually retired, you found out that, was it stab proof or bulletproof?
It was bulletproof, but it wasn't
stab proof. So it's like, oh my God, all them times that I've gone up to somebody negotiating.
But I've stood in front of people where they've had samurai swords. I've stood in people, machetes, all sorts of things, and it's a comfort to see the red laser dot that comes from behind the firearms team on this person's temple, knowing full well that if he makes a move, they'd have to do what they have to do. But the idea is the negotiation that nobody gets hurt and everybody walks away peacefully. But, you know, there's times, I always call it like when I've walked on the bridges to talk somebody down from a bridge, when the bridge is blocked at both ends And I call it the long walk because, it all suddenly goes quiet and there's your foot, all you can hear is your own footsteps walking to this person that's on the parapet who's really in a very, very difficult situation, who's thinking of taking their life, and you're the person that's got to stop them somehow. I've never lost anybody. I've grabbed somebody before, which is an absolute no-no because the weight of that person can pull you over, and it nearly did. But you keep walking, this person's swearing at you to go away or they'll jump.
You call it the long walk, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Somebody said here,
Vegas.
Bob, Facebook user, Bob, I know your sense of humour. Do you hold back when writing or throwing sarcasm? What officers go put about during investigations? I have to temper it down a little bit, shall we say, because some of the things I could not print. But yeah, there's got to be a sense of humour because the murder any murder is surrounded by sadness.
And if you get sucked in, this is what I always say.
And if you allow yourself to get sucked into that sadness, which is easily done, especially with child murders, you suddenly get distracted of what your job is, and it takes over. So,
sorry. No, it's just going a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit crackly.
Yeah.
But
can you hear it all right? Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is that you're there you've got a job to do. It's like anybody, like paramedics, motorway police, anybody, an accident, things like that. You've got a job to do and you've got to get on with it. What you see, if you get drawn into that sadness, and there's a lot of dark humour, a lot of black humour, and things happen, like we say about the body sitting up, and if you're the boss and you suddenly start shrieking and run out, your team would follow you. Say, what's happened, boss? What's happened? What it? But I think you've got to do it.
The team also take the mickey out of you, don't they? I mean,
let me tell you a story. Carl's right. I'll tell you a story here. The first time I got promoted to detective superintendent, I went to a murder down Leeds Road, or a suspicious death, should I say, down Leeds Road. And it was on a sloping banking at the back of John Smith Stadium. And it had been raining very heavily. The grass was wet. Halfway down this banking was where the body was. And you could see scenes of crime in the suit. You arrive at the scene and they give you a suit and they give you a size small suit. So when you put it on, it splits like the Hulk. It's clothing. And they think that's funny. So they then give you the proper size suit and you walk down very carefully to where the body is. And just as I approached the body, I went flat on my backside and kept on sliding down towards the small river at the bottom. I won't tell you the exact words I said when I got back up, but I said, if anybody's laughing, there will be trouble. It was a suicide, as it turned out. But you've got, I laugh at myself. And I think if there wasn't humour, I don't think, any kind of humour. I've been in a mortuary where, you've seen the books where the glass eye pops out. And if you didn't laugh, you're just trees, I think, because it's things that you're not prepared to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Anna asked about Vegas. How did she get a name?
Anna loves dogs.
Was it Anna?
Anna loves dogs. She'd love to
well, we had, you'll see all our dogs are in the books. So Max, who lives throughout the books, and you'll see, I think it's at Snowkill. When we were writing Snowkills, he died. And I couldn't let him go. It was just, we had to keep him going.
So
and
kept him living in the books.
I think that kept me going, knowing that he was living in the books. And we got a Springer Spaniel called Belle, and she had 5 pups. And her name was Vitafield Viper. So it's the first time we've ever bred, and we wouldn't do it again because
she don't mean.
No, not us two.
What she meant. It's the first time we've.
Yeah. And so we named them all. Well, the children named them all.
Yeah, we let the grandchildren name them. We said, right, you can name.
But
each one of them could name a dog.
Her kennel name was Vitafield Viper. So we were trying to do things that would go with Viper. So, of course, one of our grandchildren said, Vegas Viper. And Hermione, one of our grandchildren, is actually called Hermione Vegas because she was completely deceived in Vegas. So that's why she's got the name Vegas. So you'll see Belle in our books, you'll see, and in this latest book that I'm just writing, I don't know if you're aware, but nearly all our books raise money for charity before they even come out. So what we do is we people can bid to be a character in the book for a charity, and that is usually by the form of an auction. And I think one book raised £5,000.
Yeah,
before
it went
out.
into print, it raised £5,000 with people wanting to be.
Oh, sorry.
She just put a footstool on my ankle and tried to cut it with leg off.
This latest book, Persecution, for those of you who follow us will know that we've just adopted another retriever called Dylan. We've called him Dylan.
We called him Dylan. What else would you call him?
He's come from Hungary. He's 4 years old. He was left in the middle of a dual carriageway tied to the pole for 5 days. He's absolutely super.
He got attacked by other dogs when they brought him into the pound, but
yeah. So what we've done is we actually got him through a place called Wags and Wet Noses, which is a Yorkshire-based rescue centre, and so we've raised, I think it I mean, it's only mentioned a couple of names is the dog in the book, but in Persecution that raised £126, I think it was,
for the charity.
For the charity for the dog.
So you use a person's name, their dog's name.
So the dog is called Marcel. A rescue dog, and apparently he was on death row.
I'm smiling because we didn't know this at the time, but a lady thanks us every year, because she bid and won it at the auction to have the name. She said, "I want my husband's name in this book," and okay, what character do you want to be? She said, "I want him to be the corpse." Right, and it's not the first time somebody's wanted to be the corpse, But she thanks us every year because he's her ex-husband. And she says you kill him every year. She says it's great. I love it. She says it's great. She says every time it comes to his wedding anniversary, I'll just smile at myself and send you a message saying, "Another year gone, thank you." And you just think, well, if it raised some money for charity and that's what it did, that's fine. Because do you know what? After the police, writing's been good because you meet so many different people from so many different walks of life. And everybody's got stories to tell, whatever role in life they've had. Life's a journey, and whatever journey you've been on, people are interested in your life. It's not just police, it's all sorts. And I've learned so much since leaving the police. I mean, as a police officer, and especially as a senior investigating officer, every scene was different, and you learned something every day. I think since retiring, and doing something totally different, we've learned something every day. And we're still learning, with the consulting for TV, we're writing, we still learn. And it's the readers we learn from as well, because they point out things that we'd never picked up on, or the publisher hadn't, or the editor hadn't, or, it's like people say, well, we really like Dylan, when is he back? Like Anna said. And we think, yeah, well, there was a reason for him going to start with, and we didn't want to bury him, as it were. So hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, you'll see Dylan back. And let me tell you now, the story is a good one. It really is. I think we run it past. Well, I'm saying we run it. We spoke to Gabby, the person we've been writing, and she says, "What are you writing at the moment?" So I told her. She says, "Gosh," she says, "that's what a start. That's brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love that." I said, "Yeah, that's the start. I've just got to figure out what else follows." Yeah. And that's the hardest thing for people. And if anybody that's listening tonight or on Facebook, if you're going to write something, finish it. The hardest thing, anybody, people say, "Oh, you must get it absolutely perfect." The best thing to do is finish your story. There's people out there that will edit it, do it, do all the grammar for you, everything. Just finish it. We've worked with, or we know people that's rewritten the first 2 chapters now maybe 20 times, and they're not happy with it. You need that third eye on it. We're fortunate there's 2 of us. We argue about things, and we're not, violently, not yet. But it goes to the editor and the publisher, and let them.
And then they decide what they like and what they don't like.
But finish the story with, it's surprising. I think one of the best-selling stories was somebody that worked at a cleaners in a hotel. I forgot the name of the book off the top of my head, but she listened into everybody else's lives, the cleaner, and then she wrote a book, and that was an absolute bestseller. I'm trying to remember the title. It'll come to me after you've gone, everybody, but it doesn't matter what you do in life. And, if you can take somebody on a journey by telling a story, how fabulous. And for us, life after the police service, well, to become authors.
I think the other thing is...
What is it, book 13 or something like that? 13 books later, all published.
I think the other thing is, it's not, even if you don't get published, it's like I think since losing Dad, and I've talked to loads of people who realise what they didn't know about the family.
Yeah.
Or they didn't know what Dad did. I mean, our children didn't
know until they started
reading
got
the
older,
books. They
and they married with their own children now and started reading. They said, "Really? Did you? I knew you were a cop, but did you
really do that?
Did you do that? And did that really happen?
That don't mean if you're a police officer, whatever you do, I just think there's a story to be told, isn't there? We have things happen, and it's like I say, since losing Dad, I realised how much, even though we talked, how much I still don't know about his life.
And I agree with you, and I think I'm the same because my dad died at 60, and it was in the Second World War. It was in Burma. It was in India, Dunkirk. He got shot. It was a regimental sergeant major.
He was mentioned in dispatches, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got a gold leaf, but it would never talk about it. It would never talk about it, and it's like, people researching ancestry and things like this. If people family had actually talked to you about it, then you'd know about it. You wouldn't need to do the research. There'd be somebody in the family that knew the story. But if you wrote
it down.
But, I think a lot of people that, served in World War II or World War I even, but World War II never spoke about it, and society changes over time. A lot of things that are spoken about now would be frowned upon back then, when I was growing up. Gosh, I was the little lad in Whistle Down the Wind, if you've ever watched Whistle Down the Wind, with the wellies and the flat cap and the gabardine, that, it's not Jesus, it's just a fella. So it's that kind of, society changes and we have to change with it. It is in that book, Stephanie Land. Right, somebody. It is it the book by Stephanie Land, Made, Hard Work, Low Pay, and Mother's Will to Survive?
Yeah.
I think it is, Samantha.
I think it is, yeah, Samantha, yeah.
But it's what we put. People say to you, well, what's your working day like? I mean, we just moved out on Friday, so the working day's been unpacking brown boxes and tape, and finding where's the screwdriver, where's this, why doesn't that work? But on a normal time, we work every day at writing, 7 days a week. Carol does social media, a vast amount of it, from morning to night. But every day we spend writing or talking about writing or doing something, whether it's with a charity or something. It's become totally addictive. Thank you for so many work memories ranging from the shed burglary. What is this, Kelly? Reading your books and give me lots of advice.
We're actually at time. So do you want to just finish us off with a little reminder of you and your two main series?
Yeah. Oh gosh, have we come to that time already? Gosh, that was so quick. Yeah. So we've got
David and Lisa.
Cheers. We've got. Well, actually, do you know what? One of our
my water.
One of our lovely followers. Oops, sorry. Has bought us these. When we moved, it says "Good day, bad day, don't ask."
That's when your glass is overflowing.
So we've got two series. We've got the Dylan series that's got 9 books, and we've got and Dylan. Everything in Dylan basically. It's a very personal series. Most of the family life has happened to us. You'll have to pick out the bits which you think has happened and hasn't. And Charlie Mann, like I say, you grew up in Huddersfield, you grew up on a farm. Charlie Mann is Bob in a woman's Bob, if you like.
Wearing my sister's dress, which
Yeah.
is acceptable this day and age. And you know what? I don't judge people. I don't judge people at all. People say, well, don't you use your own name? Don't you worry about reprisals from people that's you've arrested or they've been locked up for murder? No, I don't, because I've treated them how I'd like to be treated. And, you know, it's like they say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. So, but I never judge people from whatever walk of life they come, whatever they've done. It's not my place to judge them. I deal with the aftermath. And I see the sadness, because, like I say, there's no winners in a murder.
And the other thing that we're actually just doing at the moment, we're actually doing, the TV have just taken what they're calling the Bridgestock series, which is for...
Somebody said they need these glasses.
Which is, yeah, they're great, aren't they? Which is actually based on Bob. And we're working on, quite a few things that we can't talk about at the moment. But yeah, just look out.
That's a working title. Using my name, so we'll see, but that's based on it. And David Mojo, as he likes to be known, or things, Fat Lad Shed Burglar, things like this. But you don't need any help. You've got enough information to write your books, and it's just a matter of time. It's like anything you do in life. Experience, it comes with more you do something, the better you get. It's like you can't suddenly. Well, people do, but you can't suddenly just jump out of bed and run a marathon. You know, people go practicing, you train for it. And writing's a bit similar. You know, somebody said something really nice to us when they followed us from the very beginning. They said, well, when you started out, you were writers, but now you've become authors. And that's a real achievement. And, to us, that's great, but
we just enjoy ourselves, and
we're not in it for the money, because, gosh,
no,
you just don't. Remember this: as an author, you don't earn a lot.
Which all the authors on here will actually say, no, we don't.
But no, I think we just like the interaction, the addiction it becomes, and we love that. Number one, we can give something back to the charities. Number two, we're involved with TV and consultation and things like this, and we've been into colleges, we've been into schools. We've even bought trophies for colleges, where makeup colleges for the best student of the year and things like this. So we like to involve ourselves in really sort of praising people and giving people credit.
Yeah, and if anybody comes to our talks, we usually bring a makeup artist along with them, and she'll actually do bruises and wounds and things like that.
Bullet holes in the forehead and things like this.
And they go home and shock the partners. But
they don't want it cleaned off before they leave. They want to catch the bus home.
We just have fun.
So it's been lovely. We haven't spoke a lot because we're very quiet people.
We are, yeah.
And reserved. No, somebody once said to us, "You write like you talk. You never show up." Your book should be about 150,000 words.
I'll tell you something now. Within 10 minutes, you'll be sat on the settee and be fast asleep.
Not until I've had some more water.
Well, thank you both for joining us.
And
thank you. You're a lovely group, and we love being part of it.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody for joining in.
Thank you.
Keep reading, and if you're writing, keep writing. And we wish you all the wealth,
very best,
and health and happiness. So take care, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.